The Native Americans have a legend that in years of famine, an evil spirit emerges from the forest and possesses anyone who has eaten the flesh of their kin. It all begins with dreams. The doomed see the evil spirit in their sleep and realize they can't escape. They're not cursed, they're condemned. Condemned to wander forever in search of human flesh. When David got behind the wheel, the radio was forecasting freezing weather and a snowstorm. This didn't please him. He had a difficult and dangerous job ahead. He stopped by a diner where Anna worked. At that moment, she was serving Jean and her son, who worked as snowplow operators and were getting ready to clear the roads after the snowfall. The young man, however, had no desire to follow in his father's footsteps. He wanted to earn a living developing video games. After they left, Anna checked her phone and saw a bunch of missed calls from her ex. While they were living together, they had a daughter. But then Vincent lost his job and started drinking. In that state, he liked to beat his wife, but she refused to tolerate it. They divorced, and now Vincent wanted to see his daughter more often. David placed his order, and while he was drinking coffee and eating pie, Anna's ex showed up. He decided to cause a scene and beat the mother of his child. David intervened. Hearing some weakling talk back to him, Vincent grew furious. He spat into David's pie and knocked the coffee out of his hands. David remained calm. He offered the bully two choices: either beat him up and go to jail, or pull himself together for his daughter's sake and repair his family relationships. After weighing his options, Vincent decided to back off. On his way out, he broke the side mirror on David's car. Upset, Anna told David how Vincent had ended up like that. She liked David. He knew how to listen. After finishing his meal, David went on his way. He stopped at a gas station to buy cigarettes and fill up the tank. He paid in cash. Vincent noticed David's car and decided to ambush him somewhere out of sight. But then a couple of cops pulled into the station. Seeing them, David tensed up, but the officer only commented on the mirror taped on with duct tape, which Vincent had broken earlier. On the road again, David saw Vincent's car behind him. Vincent tried to overtake him on the snowy road, but David wouldn't let him. He managed to lose him, turned into the forest, and switched off his headlights. Vincent drove past. Once David was sure had shaken him, he continued on. But in the cold, his windshield began to fog up. Visibility was already poor, and as a result, David lost control and slid into a snowbank. The car got stuck. He had to get out into the freezing cold and tried to dig it out. His hands quickly went numb, so he returned inside to warm up. Realizing he'd be stuck for a while, David lit a cigarette and dozed off. When he woke up, the storm had eased a bit. He looked around. There was no cell service in this wilderness, so calling a tow truck was out of the question. He relieved himself into a bottle and stepped out into the cold. Through his binoculars, he saw smoke rising from somewhere beyond the forest, someone's home. He decided to head there for help. Before leaving, he opened the trunk, where Anna was tied up, to check if she hadn't frozen to death. He needed her alive. He planned to kill her himself. "Don't go anywhere," he told her. While David trekked through the forest, Anna managed to knock the speaker out of the rear panel and push the seat down. She climbed into the cabin, jumped out, and ran as far as she could from her copter. But the frost and snowstorm drove her back. She realized she was trapped. Either the weather would kill her, or David would. She couldn't survive the brutal cold, so she decided to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. Searching the car, he found a bottle of the homemade chemical David had used to knock her out. She took it and hid in the back seat. Meanwhile, David fell into a pit and broke his leg. The pain was excruciating, but he crawled back to the car, leaving a bloody trail. He cut his pant leg and saw the bone protruding from his shin. Then he noticed something else. Someone had rifled through his glove compartment. That meant Anna had escaped the trunk. David stayed cautious, wanting to grab his knife, but Anna was faster. She soaked a cloth with the knockout chemical and put him under in seconds. She took his weapon and prepared for his next move. To keep David from harming her, she taped his hands to the steering wheel. While unconscious, David dreamed of an animal carcass and his own blood-stained hands. The dream felt mystical and terrifying. When he woke up, he realized he was now the one being held captive. But Anna hadn't killed him, and that gave him hope. She just couldn't slit his throat while he slept. Anna hoped to call the cops, but David's phone had no signal, so they had to wait out the storm in the same car. The fuel and battery wouldn't last forever, though, and then they'd both freeze to death. David pointed this out, and Anna had to switch off the heater to save energy. In the meantime, she started going through his documents and, in conversation, learned that he knew far too much about her. He had been watching Anna and her daughter for a long time. His phone contained many photos and videos of them together. David's chatter began to irritate her, so she knocked him out again. This time, in his dream, blood ran from his mouth, and he heard whispering voices. When he woke up, it was already dark. Anna needed to relieve herself, and David offered her the same bottle he had used earlier. Refusing, she turned the key in the ignition to light the taillights and stepped outside. While she was taking care of business, David tried to free himself but failed. Then he reached the keys and locked the doors. When Anna tried the handle, she realized she couldn't get in. Not wanting to freeze outside, she broke the side window and climbed in. Now both of them were freezing. David kicked and threatened to kill her, so she used a seatbelt to choke him slightly. When she realized David had lost consciousness and was close to death, she loosened her grip. He survived, and Anna patched up the broken window with whatever she could find to keep in what little warmth remained. Then she found a box containing the driver's licenses of women David had killed. When he came to, he began talking about his victims. He remembered the first girl especially well. Back then, he hadn't yet killed anyone but was already planning to. To avoid suspicion, he put a child's car seat in the back and added other harmless details to his car. It worked. The girl stopped him herself and asked for a ride. He pretended it wasn't on his way, but then agreed. She was relaxed until she realized David was taking her somewhere else. She tried to get out, but he wouldn't let her. He strangled her and finished her off. She turned out to be a judge's daughter, and her death caused an uproar. David had to lie low, but his second and subsequent victims didn't make the news at all. He relaxed and continued his bloody trade. Did your mother traumatize you? Don't you dare mention my mother, you filthy whore. But with Anna, he had stumbled, and this mistake he couldn't fix. She was sure that when the storm ended, she'd call the police and they'd put the scumbag in the electric chair. David didn't agree. He was convinced they'd both die in this snowstorm. When he started running his mouth again, she taped his mouth shut. He fell asleep, and so did she. They woke up when some kind of animal appeared outside the car. It made terrifying sounds and had clearly scented David's blood. The maniac and his victim froze in fear. Just when they thought it had left, the creature jumped onto the roof and began pounding on the windshield. To keep it from breaking in, she turned on the ignition, headlights, and music, and began honking. She managed to scare the creature off, and she and David were safe for now. David suggested turning on the heater, as they were both freezing. She wanted to save the battery but agreed to warm the air for a bit. At that moment, David said he needed to pee. She told him to go in his pants, at least it would warm him up. But this didn't suit him. It brought back a painful childhood trauma. When Anna realized this, David lost his temper. He was also terrified of losing his leg. The skin around the wound had already turned black, and frostbite was creeping upward. But Anna reasonably pointed out that what he should fear wasn't frostbite, but the electric chair. Later, Anna learned that they were in a forest belonging to a Native American reservation. She remembered the legend about the vengeful spirit that hunted killers. It would take them, and their souls would wander the forest forever. When Anna finished telling the story, the car battery died. That meant only one thing. If the storm didn't end soon, they'd both freeze to death. Anna and her captor were already on the verge of freezing. While they were still alive, Anna decided to warm herself on David's lap. He told her that his father had left and his mother punished him harshly for any wrongdoing, especially when he wet the bed. That's where his fixation on not wetting himself came from. Anna shared her own difficult life story. Then David revealed that the cold had made the duct tape brittle, and he had freed his hands. He attacked Anna mercilessly, pinning her down, but didn't get to finish. The mystical creature from his dream, the one from the Native American legend, appeared and took him away. Terrified, Anna hid in the trunk. She was afraid to fall asleep, knowing the cold would kill her if she did. So she turned on David's phone and began watching videos of her daughter. When the storm ended, Gene appeared on his snowplow. He noticed a blood stain next to the car, all that was left of David, and then opened the trunk. Anna looked dead, but when the flashlight beam hit her face, she opened her eyes.